Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to set up focus bracketing on OM system cameras. I'm going to be using an OM1 today, and depending on what camera model you have, it might look a little bit different in the menus, but everything should be there. So the first thing you want to do is obviously turn the camera on. And then make sure your camera is set to manual on the mode dial. Once you've done that, you want to hit menu. On this camera it is top left. Once you're in the menus, you want to navigate across to menu 2 and page 3. So here we are. Should look like that. These are all the different bracketing modes, and as you can see at the bottom we've got focus bracketing, which is what we want. So we're going to scroll down to that and then click OK on that. The first thing you want to do when you get in here is click on focus bracket. This will obviously just turn focus bracketing on. The next thing we've got is set number of shots. As you can see, I've set mine to 999. So I've set my number of shots to 999, which is the maximum. And the reason I've done that is because when you're out shooting, you can actually press the shutter button to start the bracketing sequence and then press it again to end it. So as you can see, my focus differential is set to 1. It's quite hard to explain, but I'll try my best. So if you're shooting at 10, which is the highest you can go to, then the distance between each focal plane is going to be like this. Quite big. This is typically good for shooting larger subjects because obviously you're going to be further away and the depth of field is not going to be as great, so you don't have to get as many shots. Whereas if you're shooting more magnified, say at 1 times or 2 times magnification, then you're going to want to use a lower number like 1, 2 or 3. So for example, if you shot at a differential of 1, then your focal planes would be a lot closer together, so it'd be more like this. Whereas 10 would be more spaced out like that. So if you're a bit unsure on what focus differential to use, just have a little experiment with it. But typically I use 1 and 2 for 1 times and 2 times magnification shots. And when you're shooting at those magnifications, your depth of field is very thin, and which means you have to shoot a lot more shots to get your subject in focus. Flash charge time I've got set to 0 seconds because I shoot on the Godox V860 Mark III, and this is a very good flash and can usually keep up. However, if I'm in a very dark location and I have to go to 1/16 or 1/8 on the flash, I might change my flash charge time to something like 0.2 or 0.5 seconds. So flash charge time is quite dependent on what gear you have. So my advice would be start on 0 seconds. If your flash is struggling, then bump it up to like 0.2 and then try 0.5 and see how that works. So I've shown you my bracketing settings, and now I'm going to show you how to easily turn on and off bracketing mode. So firstly, you want to make sure you're in manual on the mode dial, and then you want to turn focus bracketing on. Once you've done that, you want to click menu. And on the first page at the top you'll see custom mode. If you click on that, you can assign all the settings you have set in manual to a custom button on the mode dial. So I already have mine set to C1, so what I'm going to do for this video is just set mine to C4. And as you can see here, we've got recall, assign and save settings. You want to hit assign. So as you can see here, it says set current shooting mode and settings to C4. So all the settings, including white balance, shutter speed, aperture, everything like that, including bracketing, will be assigned to that custom mode. Once you're happy with all the settings you've got in manual mode, you hit set, and that will set all those settings to C4 on the mode dial. So I won't get into camera settings too much in this video, but I will mention shutter speed quickly. So if you're using an OM1 or an OM1 Mark II, the maximum shutter speed you can use with bracketing turned on and while using a flash is 1/100. And the reason for this is because when using a flash, it has a sync speed. So if you use any higher of a shutter speed than 1/100, then you'll just have black lines throughout your images. And if you're using an older camera model, such as the OMD E-M10 Mark II, your shutter speed will be limited to 1/50 while using bracketing and the flash. However, if you're not using a flash, then you can use whatever shutter speed you want. So the reason I like to assign bracketing to one of the custom modes on the mode dial is because you can be shooting in manual with totally different settings that don't work for bracketing, and then if you want to get a bracket, all you got to do is turn the mode dial to one of the custom modes that you've assigned to, and you've got all the settings there with bracketing turned on, ready to go. And another reason why I like this is because it's just less time changing camera settings and more time shooting. There's also an alternative option to turn on and off focus bracketing, so I'm just going to quickly show you that now. So what you want to do is press menu and then go all the way to menu 6 and page 1. So here we are, menu 6 page 1, you'll see button settings, click on that. And at the top you'll see button function, click on that as well. So what you see in here is a list of every single button on the camera. And what you can do in this menu is assign bracketing to turn on and off with one of these buttons. Now you can select any button you want, but I would recommend the button next to the lens mount. So There are two buttons on my camera by the lens mount, so I would choose one of these. And that's because these aren't really used that often, so it's just a nice button to use for focus bracketing to turn on and off. So to assign focus bracketing to one of these buttons, all you gotta do is click on it and then scroll down until you see focus bracket. There it is, and then just click on it. And there you are. And when you press the button at the front of your camera now, that will turn the focus bracketing on and off. If you have a lens such as the OM System 90mm macro, you'll have a function button on the lens, and you can use that to assign focus bracketing to that button. So you can click on that and then scroll down and hit focus bracketing, and there we are. We've got focus bracketing assigned to the button on our lens. The only reason I don't use this is because I usually use the same settings for focus bracketing, so I prefer the custom function button on the mode dial, where I can just turn the mode dial and then I'll have all the settings along with bracketing turned on. But this is just an alternative option, so if you prefer this option, then by all means go ahead and use it. Alright, so now you've got bracketing set up, I'm going to show you how to actually use bracketing. So one thing to quickly mention is that focus bracketing needs electrical communication between the camera body and the lens. This means focus bracketing won't work if you're using a totally manual lens. One misconception is that you need to be using autofocus to use focus bracketing, but all you need to be using is a lens that has autofocus. You can use manual focus and still do bracketing, and you can use autofocus and do bracketing. It doesn't really matter, as long as the lens and the camera body are communicating. So my preference is to have the lens set to manual focus and then turn the ring until I've got the subject in focus, or set my magnification and then move forwards and backwards until I'm ready to start my bracket sequence. So what I like to do when focus bracketing is focus just before the subject starts. And the reason I do this is because I just want to make sure that I get everything covered when I'm bracketing. Just before we start the bracketing sequence, we need to make sure that we're very still. Obviously the best option is to use a tripod. As you see in my videos, I shoot handheld. And this takes a bit of practice. You want to be as still as possible, because if you move while bracketing, then it can be very messy to stack later on in post-processing. But once we've got everything ready and we're happy with the composition, all you gotta do is press the shutter button and it starts the bracketing sequence. And then once we think we've got all the images we need, we just press the shutter button again and it stops the bracketing sequence. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's as simple as that. The cool thing about bracketing is that when you hit the shutter button, the camera will just automatically start taking those images at different focal planes for you, and you don't have to move the camera at all. Once you've shot your bracketed sequence, you'll have a series of images shot at different focal planes, and what you need to do then is load those up into stacking software and then stack them to get a final stacked image. You can use software such as Photoshop, Helicon Focus or Zarine Stacker to focus stack your bracketed sequence. I personally use Zarine Stacker, and I'm not going to go into detail on how to stack those images, but I do have a video on my channel on my stacking process, so if you're interested, go check that out. But yeah, I'm going to call it there for today's video. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try my best to answer them. But if you've enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.